Welcome to Your Mac Life, show number 1193 for October 24th day of October 2018. I am Shawn King.
I'm Melissa King.
Thank you guys very much for joining us here on the show, whether you're listening in via the archive or whether you're tuned in live. All the cool kids in the IRC chat room, thanks to our good friend Monty. He set it up so that anybody can join the IRC during the live show. So if you're listening in live, watching live, and want to know what this IRC stuff is about, Monty set it up so you go to the front page of the website, right underneath the video, you put in your name, and it pops you into the IRC chat room. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Uh-oh.
The hell was that?
I think you got it from me.
Is that from you? All right, good. On tonight's show, we're going to talk to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. We're going to talk to Jim about a bunch of things, including his soon-to-be published iPhone XR review, or iPhone XR, as I've gotten several emails from you folks upset that I call it the XR, even though it's a big letter X. I'll try calling it the XR. Next Apple event, next Tuesday, Apple will have another event announcing their probably new iPads, new Apple Pencil, some other things, maybe new Macs, we don't know. And Tim Cook had a very, very strong speech yesterday at a data privacy conference, basically saying that our data has been weaponized against us. Very interesting speech. If you haven't watched it, you really should. We'll talk to Jim about that. And then in our starting point photography segment, we're going to talk about street photography in Lisbon. That pretty lady there has got some questions about street photography in general, and we'll talk about street photography and travel photography in Lisbon in our starting point photography segment. Shoot, there was something I wanted to... They have Halloween in Australia?
Yes.
Is it a recent thing, or has it been going on for years?
Years.
So did you dress up when you were a kid?
Oh, no. It's an adult thing.
Say what?
It's just, for me, it was just adult parties. Getting dressed up and going to Halloween adult parties. I didn't trick-or-treat as a kid.
Are you saying that Australian kids don't trick-or-treat?
Not in my experience.
Really?
No trick-or-treating. It was something on the movies that I would see as a kid and be fascinated by all the North American kids going trick-or-treating. But as a child growing up in Australia, it wasn't part of my life.
Really? I didn't know that.
No.
See, we think of Halloween as being a kid thing that adults have taken over to a certain degree, not an adult thing that kids don't participate in.
Oh, yes. No. In Australia, it was more just having fun with it as an adult, a young adult.
I find that interesting because for us, for the most part in North America, it's definitely a kid thing. Only, the weird adults get dressed up for Halloween. I've never been as an adult to a Halloween party, like a dress-up party. And I've only one time, when I was living in Pittsburgh, did I ever dress up and go out to bars. It was me and Steve Melnicki and his wife and some friends. We all got into costume together as a group and went bar hopping, basically, trying to win contests. We actually won. It turned out to be a timeshare, but we won a contest or a vacation in Florida at one of the places we were at. But yeah, I've never been an adult trick-or-treater. So what did you go as when you were trick-or-treating? I didn't
trick-or-treat.
You went to Halloween parties?
Yeah.
Did you dress up in costume?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of costumes did you dress up in?
I was Mad Marian one time.
Wait,
I was
wait, who?
Mad Marian. So I had the long gown on with the beard. Maid Marian, except I called myself Mad Marian.
Oh, okay.
I was one of those bar wenches, with the corset kind of dresses and the feathers. I was, we did one Come As Your Favorite Dead Person, so...
All right. Who's your favorite dead person?
Oh, I don't know. What did I do for that one? I think I did Natalie. No, I'm sorry. Oh, what was the woman's name that fell off the boat and drowned? Beautiful.
Natalie Wood.
Natalie Wood. Yeah, just silly parties, but it was so much fun. My mother loved to dress up.
Did she?
So we used to go to the costume shops in town and get really good costumes.
we never had a lot of money to buy costumes, so we basically, when we were kids, stuck with just the mask thing that you got at the like Zellers or Sears or whatever it was, and that was the only real choice that we had. Excuse me, as kids, because it was cheap. It was like I don't know, maybe $5 for a mask. I have no idea. The other thing is, at least when we were kids, I just checked the weather in Halifax next week. It's going to be 12 degrees on Halloween, which is balmy.
It's very hot for Halloween.
Yeah, no kidding. But when I remember distinctly when I was a kid, it was always very, very cold.
Yes, it was about having a snowsuit on.
Yeah, there might have been snow on the ground for some of our Halloweens as a kid. So whatever costume you had to fit over your snowsuit.
Yes.
And I loved Halloween, if not only for the candy, but for the day after. Because the day after, me and my little brother, Mikey and Chucky, would get together in the living room or someplace where there's a lot of space and horse trade candy. You know, so, and remember, these are the days when you got full-size chocolate bars. Whoever invited those little mini-bit things, I hope he dies a horrible, frightening death and is in the seventh circle of hell. Because those little mini bites, that's just a rip-off. We got the damn full-size chocolate bars. And so we all had our favorite kind of candy. I remember my little brother Chucky loved Love Hearts. Remember those?
Yes, and they had the writing on them.
Yeah, he loved Love Hearts. Wasn't a big chocolate fan. So we would basically con Chucky out of his chocolate bar. I'll give you 1 Love Heart for 2 Three Musketeers bars. He'd go, okay. Because Chucky was like 6. He didn't know.
That's just so
Poor kid didn't know how to negotiate, you know.
Bless his little heart.
Yes, he was we got so much candy from him. Yeah, Dave D. We hand out full size. Good for you, Dave D.
Oh, a lot of people give kids cans of pop. Just a whole can.
We never got that. And we always hated the people who gave us popcorn. Like, screw you. Okay? I can get popcorn at home. I don't want a little wrapped up bag of popcorn. No. And candy apples. I was never crazy about those.
You don't see those anymore.
Not anymore. Because there's this urban legend that some child died because there was a razor in their
child. You don't see candy apples. I mean, I've been taking the boys. Rory's still at it. So I've done a lot of Halloween traipsing around the streets.
And the other one was it's gotten more prevalent now because Canada just legalized marijuana last week. Now there's these warning, people are going to give your kid pot brownies or edibles.
Oh,
so be
for
careful.
Heaven's sake.
I guarantee you no stoners giving your kid his pot brownies.
No. They're my pot brownies.
Exactly. Why would I give a kid a pot brownie? I'm not going to get to see him stoned, so why bother?
Oh.
It's not going to happen.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, Sherry, no one is giving your kids their weed.
No.
No one's going to waste
happen.
Mosquito, don't waste weed on kids. Exactly. No. Not going to happen, so don't even worry about it. But I still remember the most traumatic Halloween I ever had was when I was 12 years old. And it was in the apartment complex that we lived in on Princess Margaret Boulevard in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. And I don't remember what I was dressed up as. But I do. At 12, I was a mutant. I was 6 feet tall, 180 pounds. I was a giant 12-year-old. And because it's cold, so you're wearing your big winter jacket, right? And I had this mask on. And so I got the mask on. Let's say it's a Frankenstein mask, whatever it is. And I walk into people's houses, knocking on the door, and going, trick or treat. And they're like, get out of here, mister. And I'm not a mister. I'm only 12. Look, you know. It was the worst. Every single house I went to. Get out of here. I'm Shawn, Mrs. Johnson. Look. Oh, Shawn. It was the worst.
Oh.
I never trick-or-treated ever again.
No, you were done.
It was time. Because I learned in the ensuing period of time a very valuable skill.
Well, you could just grab their candy. You were so bloody big.
Being a bully. What I learned was that I could just stand on any street corner. And when a kid walked by, I could say, give me your candy. And he would.
Aw.
So I would come home with like 18 bags of candy. And they weren't bags, and we were poor. They were always pillowcases.
Yeah. Oh, yes, yes.
And so my mother would go, where do these pillowcases come from?
Yeah, so you didn't go trick-or-treating. You went bullying.
I went bullying. I went bullying. I stole candy from children.
I think he still would, actually, if he was given the chance.
The other thing that kills about Halloween is that what's this message we send to children? We tell children for 365 days.
Don't go near strangers.
Don't talk to strangers. Don't take candy from strangers. Don't beg. And yet there's one day of the year. Go do all that stuff.
And they're so enthusiastic. Like, I'm not going to the schools the following day. It's insane.
Why? Oh, because all the kids are hopped up on...
And they're tired. And some of them
up.
have still got half of their costumes on.
What do you think about these towns that ban children over the age of 12 from trick-or-treating?
Well, I mean, Rory's 12, and he'll be 13 like 4 days later, and he's still really into it. I think it's awful.
I think if you're into it, let the child do it.
Yes.
I don't care if you're 27. If you go to the effort of putting on a mask and walking around, you're getting a chocolate bar.
Mm-hmm.
Not from us. We don't do trick or treat.
No.
We're too poor to give out candy. But I think Dave D, sweet 11-year-old Shawn turned into monster 12-year-old Shawn. Sounds like a movie. But I think that's because the reasoning behind it is that at some point in the past, some kids, teenagers, pulled pranks and egg cars and did toilet paper. Okay, I get that's annoying and bad. So punish those kids. Catch those kids. Don't ban every single 13-year-old.
Yeah.
Because I think as a kid, you can trick-or-treat up to about 15 or 16 years old. I think that's okay.
I think so.
Especially if you got little brothers.
If you're taking your little brothers and sisters, sure.
But even by yourself, if it's you and a bunch of friends, go trick-or-treat.
If you're not embarrassed by it and if you still feel okay doing it, then do it.
And if you're an adult and you want to get dressed up and go trick-or-treating, you want to get dressed up as Dracula, go do it.
Yes.
We have so little... not joy.
Joy in life?
Not joy, but so little unrestricted is the word I'm looking for. But just fun. This is stupid fun. There's no reason for this holiday. This is not a holiday. There's no reason for this event. It's just fun. Just go and have fun and don't prevent people from having fun.
And dressing up is too fun.
It can be if you have the right figure for it. Later on in the show, in our starting point photography segment, we're going to talk about street photography. Dave D has just said that he loves street photography. He's afraid. Dave, this segment is for you.
Thank you, Dave. I was going to talk about that.
We're talking about street photography, particularly in Lisbon, travel photography. But up next, we'll talk to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. This is your Mac Life. Welcome back, folks. Thank you guys very much for joining me here this Wednesday evening, or if you're tuned into the archive, thanks for being tuned in via the iTunes Store. In our phone, we've got our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. Jim, how you doing?
Well,
I'm
doing. My parents arrived yesterday.
You don't sound happy about that.
They're Canadians fans. And
that's right. I love your dad. That's right.
Both of them. My mom and dad are both Canadians fans, and it's real hardship for me to try and watch hockey when they're here. So
why do you invite your parents to come visit you during hockey season? Why would you just?
They just show up.
They don't tell you ahead of time.
Well, they just show up.
Oh, that's rude.
And it happens to be hockey season, and as it turns out, the Bruins are playing the Canadians on Saturday night. So if I don't win, then I'll be screwed for the rest of the day.
Exactly. Yeah, that's an awkward situation you put yourself into, and I have no sympathy for you whatsoever.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And by the way, go Dodgers.
What an asshole! Oh my God.
And then, by the way, I hate the Dodgers. Okay, I hate the whole National League, but I'm cheering for the Dodgers.
So I have a friend here who is an A's fan, and he said, I hate both teams, and I'm not hoping for one. And I tried to get him to force him to pick one team, and he just kept saying, screw you. I'm not picking anything. I hate them both.
Hate them both equally, so that seems fair. So we've seen a bunch of reviews come out of the iPhone XR. I'm going to try to say XR, not XR. Yours is hopefully coming up in the next little while. We always like your reviews because they're more conversational, the more normal, average person type reviews. But that being said, it is interesting to read the other reviews. Now, you've been using it for, I'm going to guess, about a week?
No, actually, I haven't. I just got mine, so.
Okay.
But I do have a lot of thoughts on it, actually. So yeah, I'll be posting I'll give you my review tonight.
Yeah, you've also done a podcast with Dave Mark on the Download Report, so we'll get even more information there. But first thing, is my impression incorrect about the iPhone XR, that it seems like it's the air quote fun iPhone?
Oh, I don't know if it's so much fun, but what gets me about the XR is that Apple could have done so much less and still sold a boatload of these phones.
Really?
But they didn't. I mean, if you look even at the specs of this phone, and when I met with Apple, the biggest question that I had for them was why?
Yeah.
Why make this phone so competitive with your other phones? There was no need to. You could have put an A11 chip in. You could have put not a 12 megapixel camera. You could have put a 10 or a 7 or, whatever.
Yeah.
But the specs of this phone are absolutely stunning for $250 less.
Yeah.
Now, to be clear, I stick by what I said before, that, the top selling phone will be the Max and the XS, and maybe the XR, XS might switch up. But I still think that the people that were going to buy those top level phones will continue to buy the top level phones. But the XR is one of the most fascinating products that Apple has come out with, because it's so good for a relatively cheap price.
Yeah.
$750 is still a lot of money, but relative, it's a cheap price. And, there are little things like when I tried portrait mode requires a human face.
Yes.
So I tried to do portrait mode, a picture of my dog. Wouldn't work. No human face detected is what it said.
Yeah.
I tried to do portrait mode of a flower. Nothing. Nothing will work but a human face.
Yeah.
So is that a downside? Well, if you're buying an XR, maybe that's not a downside. Maybe, portrait mode is for human portraits.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know, but I think it's an amazing phone. I really do. I'm more impressed with it now that I have it than what I was before when I didn't.
I found something very interesting. I don't know if you've seen the story yet on The Loop. Austin Mann posted his review from a photographer's point of view of the iPhone XR. And weirdly enough, and I got some flack for this, I didn't like his photos from his review of the iPhone XS or XS Max. I really like his review of his photos of the iPhone XR. Is the photography that different? Do you find anything different for the photography? I mean, I know you're not a professional photographer, but was the method of shooting or the results of shooting any different for you?
So there seems to be a bit of a difference in the results of low light conditions.
Yes, yeah.
And that seems to be where the big thing is.
Yeah.
But I haven't really experienced that yet because I'm not I'm not great at photography, so
Yeah, I was curious to see if there was anything that. I think the only real difference that people are going to notice are the fact that, as you said, portrait mode will not work in any situation other than with a human face, even in profile, as I've read for things. I think is interesting. I wonder why Apple did that, because profile or portrait mode works with the iPhone XS and XS Max and the iPhone X, the iPhone X. I wonder why they chose to turn that feature off on the iPhone XR.
I don't know.
Well, I think one of the best lines I read in John Gruber's review is, the new iPhone is the phone most people should buy. Do you agree with that?
Well, if you look at the mass market, the mass market itself probably will buy the XR.
Yeah.
Because it is more cost effective. It's still got a lot of the high-end features that the S and the Max have.
Yeah.
But, I still think that the people that are going to buy the Max and the S will still buy those phones. They're going to go in and say, what's the best you got?
Yeah.
And those are the people that have, money to blow and they don't care.
Sure.
They want the best. But there are a lot of price-conscious consumers that will go out and say, okay, so the R has a great camera.
Yeah.
It has the exact same camera on the front-facing for selfies and stuff as the other two. It has a great video camera. It has still wide stereo sound. All of these things are still part of the R. So I think those people will say, well, I don't need to buy a Samsung 9 or whatever it is. I can buy an iPhone.
Yeah.
So I don't think that there's any fear of one going against the other. I think that this is more the competition really has to worry at this point, because I think a lot of people will come to the R.
Do you think that there is competition for the iPhone at this price point with this, for lack of a better term, value in it? It looks like it's like 90% as good for 75% of the price.
That's almost what it is.
Yeah,
I mean, if you put it down there, that's kind of what it is. But I don't know if you would get that. I mean, if you look at the photography specs, yeah, there are some things that you're going to give up. Absolutely. I mean, there's not dual stabilization. There's it's the camera is definitely not as good, but it's great. I mean, I took some pictures with it, and it looks amazing. So if you're an average user and you're going to go out and take some pics, oh, hell yes.
Yeah.
You're not going to lose anything. And that's what I'm wondering. Apple could have beat the specs down on this by a lot.
Yeah.
And they didn't. It uses the same A12 Bionic chip. It uses the same neural network. It uses the same, on and on and on. It's wireless charging. It's, everything. But, it's $250 cheaper. That's going to mean a lot to a lot of folks.
I think one of the things, though, is the fact that because of, at least in America, the payment plan that so many folks have access to, that takes away a lot of the pain of the price point. So I think it's one of the reasons why people think they can afford a $1,500 phone is because they're only paying $60 a month for it. And I think that's also why the price point may not make a lot of difference to folks with the iPhone XR for the same reason. You think?
Well, maybe. But I think that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to pick. I think, and you know what? This is the main point. Does Apple really care which phone people pick?
Yeah.
No, they don't.
That's right. They do not care at all. As long as they get your money, they don't give a rat's ass which phone you pick.
And is there a phone of the 3 models released that can be for everybody? Yes. So they don't care. And that's a perfect position to be in.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want people picking, you don't want a cannibalization of one over the other when one is going to make less or, this one's going to make more and we need to drive people to that. I think all 3 are going to be well received in the market. So, when the next quarter earnings come out, it's going to be a blockbuster, I think.
And I think that was the experiment Apple did with last year's launch of the 10, the 8, and the 8 Plus. They saw that they can do that. They can have one very high-end, very expensive phone that people will buy, but as long as they have stuff at the bottom where people have a choice in the middle, they're going to sell a lot of all of them. As it turns out, as long as everything else stays equal, people are there's that, as you said, there's that group of people who are going to buy the top of the line regardless. There's going to be that group of people who want the best but don't want to spend all that money. And then there's going to be a group of people who are just price conscious, not as much as an Android user, for example, but still they want a good phone, they want a good device. They don't need all the power of a S or a Max, and the R is going to be a fantastic. The R is the one I would recommend for a lot of people.
A lot of people.
It is the one I would say, unless you are a serious photographer, get with the R. Unless you need all the power of whatever it is that Apple's offering, the bigger screen, that's one of the things is the significant difference is the LCD screen versus the OLED screen of the other ones. You've had them both side by side. Is it noticeable to the average person?
Okay. So the average person, I would say no. Are there people out there that can pick out all the differences? Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Those it's like giving somebody a raw music file and somebody, a high def MP3. Can they tell the difference? Sure. Can the average person? No. So when I look at the screens, I mean, Apple has done so much work behind the scenes, and they called the screen on the R the liquid retina, and they call the other ones super retina. Well, those are totally different screens. So when you look at the liquid retina on the R, they have done anti-aliasing. They've done pixel masking. They've done all of this stuff to make everything on the edges of those corners rounded, exactly the same as the S and the Max. So if you look at those screens together as an average person, you look at those, can you tell the difference? No. Absolutely not. Yeah, I mean, what they have done is stunning work.
Yeah.
In that regard.
It's as a, I hate thinking it this way, but as a company, it feels like what Apple is doing is almost magic. You know, it's completely against what other people would recommend. It's completely against what the pundits would say. It's completely against what other companies do, and yet they continue to make these decisions that when we see them, we go, well, that's stupid. And then 6 months later, we go, look at the stock price is up another $50 kind of thing, you know?
Right. But, I mean, that brings me back to what I said when we first started this talk. My biggest question to Apple was why?
Yeah.
Why did you go through all of the trouble of anti-aliasing and pixel masking to make the corners exactly the same as your super retina? You didn't need to do that.
Oh, yeah.
You could have made those corners square.
Yep.
You could have done so many different things. You could have not included the A12 Bionic.
Yep.
You didn't have to include the 12. And that's what I keep coming back to with this phone is why? Why did they do this? But they have this amazing product now that they can put out to people and say, yeah, you know what? You're not missing out on a whole lot by getting this phone because you have the same power. I mean, somebody that's walking down the street with an R has the same power that I have in my Max.
Yeah. Which is
exactly the same. Pretty amazing. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
They have the exact same power that I have. They can take a great photo. I can take a great photo.
Yep.
Now I know that you and Austin Man and those people can look at those two photos and say, yeah, I see the difference here. Look at this. Look at these pixels and look at the. I couldn't tell the difference.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, I took pictures with both phones of the same damn flower, the same flower I always take pictures of for my review. And the two of them look exactly the same to me.
Yeah.
Now, the difference is in the bokeh.
Yes.
I mean, as of right now, you do not get a preview. So you need a human face. So I took a selfie of, that didn't turn out well. but so you need a human face to take a picture with the DR. So I took a selfie, but you do not see the bokeh preview. You do not see the depth. So there's no way to tell what the background looks like. So you take that picture, but then when you go into software, they're using all their machine learning and they're using all of this stuff to show the bokeh effect or the depth effect. So you can blur the background in software afterwards. Well, to me, honestly, it still looked great.
So you're not seeing enough of a difference for it to make you say that you don't have a good phone, that your device isn't as good as someone else's device.
Right. Now, to be clear, this was with the front-facing camera. So those cameras are exactly the same. That's something else. The front-facing cameras, the true depth, everything that you see there is exactly the same on both phones, on all three phones.
Yeah.
So, that's a big thing. That's a big thing.
It's one of those things that's going to be really interesting to see. Apple will not in 3 months or 4 months, over a period of time it is, tell us exactly how many of each devices they've sold. There'll be some folks who will try to figure it out. But I still believe that the Max will be the big seller, just like the 10,
I agree.
The 10 was before. But I think the R is going to be the second biggest seller. I don't think these are going to go Max SR. I think the R is going to be the second biggest.
You could be right.
Yeah.
You could be right. Based on what I've seen from using this now, I said before that it was going to be the Max, the S, the R.
Yep.
But I think, and I said earlier, those two could flip-flop.
Yep.
So, and I wouldn't be surprised one bit if those two did flip-flop.
Your review will be up hopefully by next week this time, and we'll talk about it again then. You also talked to Dave Mark about it on the Dalrymple Report, which hopefully will be up tomorrow. Let's move on and talk about some other things. Sorry?
All right. No, I was just going to say, yeah, we'll be up tomorrow, but I gave you first crack.
It was really interesting. I don't know if you watched the video of Tim Cook today.
I did not get a chance to see that.
I wish you had, because I'd love to get your thoughts on, first of all, his speaking style was very, very stiff. I was very surprised at how stiff he seemed in this particular venue. It's also, the venue itself is fascinating because they chose this intentionally. This was not a Macworld Expo. This was not an Apple event. This was at a very specific kind of conference, and you know that they chose this conference for exactly that reason. The conference was the 40th anniversary of the ICD-PPC, which is, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Cook said that we are being, our data is being weaponized against us. Is that hyperbole, or do you think that's really true?
You know, if you look at what's gone on in the world as far as data goes in the past couple of years, I mean, you could certainly make an argument that, yeah, things are being used against us.
Yeah.
I mean, our own information is being used against us. And that's scary. It really is. And as far as Tim being stiff, you know, excuse me, you could put that just back to the fact that Tim has to be very careful.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that.
On what he's saying. I don't think Tim is stiff at all in what he's trying to get across for privacy.
Yep.
But I have heard Tim talk about privacy in other interviews where all of a sudden he kind of pulls back and he speaks not necessarily his mind like he does about products, but he speaks the company line.
Yeah.
And you have to be so careful because you're not only dealing with privacy here, you're dealing with people's lives, you're dealing with the government,
Yep.
You're dealing with everything. So I can understand that he would have been stiff. And tomorrow I will go look at this video a bit more.
He makes pretty much a similar set of statements as he has in the past. There was nothing really surprising in what he said. Maybe it was the people he was saying this in front of, and I just wanted to make sure I got the name right. It's the 40th International Conference of Data Protection and Privacy Commissioners. This is a group of Europeans who are doing what they can to corral the internet. And the way the internet absorbs data, not only absorbs it, but actively takes it from us. And I think that's part of the problem, is that if I do a survey, if some company says, if you do this survey for us, we'll enter you into a draw for a $100 Amazon gift certificate. I might do that. That's me giving my data up for personal gain, for my own uses. I know what data I'm giving up. The problem that Cook and others are talking about is the activities of the Amazons and the Facebooks and the Googles who do this stuff behind the scenes without us knowing about it. And as he said in the speech, these little tiny breadcrumbs that we leave behind as we do our shopping, whether it be online or in the real world. And then gathering up all these breadcrumbs and reconstituting into a loaf of bread.
Yep.
And then
and they can.
They can. They absolutely can. And that is what I think what a lot of these people are afraid of. I don't think most of us really mind advertising. I think most of us have gotten used to it. It's far too much nowadays. But we know what it's for. When we see an ad on a TV commercial, we see an ad in a magazine. We know what's going on there. It's these hyper targeted ads that, first of all, aren't very good. I mean, I'm constantly getting ads for things that I have no interest in. And it's the use of that data for reasons and methodologies that we don't control. And his tweet storm that he posted up was also very interesting. Did you get a chance to see that?
No.
He, let's see if I can't dig it up, what he said. He said, first, companies should challenge themselves to de-identify customer data. Second, users should always know what data is being collected. Third, companies should recognize data belongs to the user. And fourth, everyone has a right to the security of their data. He says, and he believes, and Apple believes, that privacy is a fundamental human right. Do you agree with that?
Well, here, okay. So there's really two questions there. Do I believe that? Yes, I believe that our privacy is our own to control. But far too many people are willing to give up that privacy for a coupon or for a chance to win.
Yes.
And is that is it, let's say any company, XYZ company says, we will give you a $5 coupon if you fill out all this information for us.
Yeah.
Is that the company's fault, or is it our fault for actually filling it out and getting that $5 coupon?
Yeah.
How angry can we be when we fill it out and they sell our information to somebody? Well, you gave it to them for $5. So basically you're saying your information is worth $5 or $10 or $20. I mean, they're making so much more off of that information. So is the company at fault for doing that, or is it our fault? Well, I mean, if all companies live by Apple's rules, you could put all of your information on the internet and never have to worry about it getting put out there.
Yes.
But that's not the way it is.
Yep.
I mean, I'm sure you've seen the joke on the internet about a Google job available. No need to apply. We already know everything about you.
Exactly. No need to send us your resume. We already know. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's not far from the truth.
Yep.
They do already know.
Susan,
and so does Facebook, and so do others.
Susan Gare in our IRC chat room says they've made it very easy and mindless to give it away. I think that's part of it, too, is that it's too easy to give this stuff away. You do a Facebook quiz or a BuzzFeed quiz of what's your favorite color. That detail, along with some other quiz that you took, that what is your favorite dog, if the bad guys start putting all this jigsaw puzzle together, they can get a pretty accurate idea of who you are, and not just for advertising. So now they know that I drive this kind of car, so I'm going to get ads about those kinds of cars, or the competitor has bought the AdWords for that car. They're manipulating what we see on the internet. You do a search for something on Amazon or Google, and suddenly all these ads that pop up on websites are that thing you just searched for. Like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah. So, and Susan is absolutely right. And think about this. You do a survey on Facebook, and through that survey, it comes out that you really love dogs.
Yep.
Well, and the SPCA wants to advertise. Well, here's somebody that really loves dogs. They don't even know if you have a dog or not.
Yep.
They know you love dogs. So maybe you want to donate to the SPCA. So they'll show you that ad. I mean, there's so many ways, and it's so easy for the companies to do it. And she's absolutely right. And that's part of the problem, because they're using everything that we do, especially on these networks, to say, hey, Shawn loves dogs.
Yep.
He said so in the survey. Would you save a dog? Yes, I would save a dog. You could be out of your mind drunk and just say, oh yeah, whatever. I'd say, but the fact is, they use that information against you.
Yeah.
And I say against you. That's a pretty aggressive way to put it, but I think that's how they do it.
And in some ways, interestingly enough, some of this stuff is actually good in the sense that if I had the money, I could create a Facebook boosted post that would tell people information about my Lisbon photography trip. But I could send that information just to those people who were interested in photography and travel, and maybe even specifically to Lisbon. I could also target that ad to only people who lived in Canada, because I don't want Americans, or only Americans. I don't want Canadians. In that regard, it's good because my ad dollars are going to a more targeted audience, an audience most likely to want to buy my product. In that case, that's good. But most of these companies have gone so far beyond that, they've stepped over a huge number of lines and boundaries that this is the result. The result is you get people like Tim Cook. Tim Cook asked for a federal privacy law. Now, that's going to make all the right-wingers just lose their minds over big government and all that kind of stuff. But he's not wrong. If these companies, after all these years, are still losing our data, mistreating our data, giving our data to the wrong people, and not telling us they're collecting the data, when it pisses us off, guess what, kids? We want a law now to stop your dumbasses.
Well, but that would put Google out of business. It would put Facebook out of business.
No.
It would put a lot of these companies completely out of business. And don't forget, if you were going to charge companies with giving away our data, that they, through a breach or whatever, that would mean so many of the biggest companies that we know, including banks, that would be sued because they've all lost our data.
Yeah, that's right.
They've collected it. They've lost it.
The most interesting aspect of this is how this perfectly aligns with Apple's already stated wants, needs, desires. Apple has, I don't know if they've maneuvered this situation or whether they've just lucked into it, that they are, of all these big tech companies, the only ones who don't want your personalized data. They do want data. Right. And they do collect data. Make no mistake about it. Apple is not collecting data.
But it's anonymized. Exactly. It's anonymized. So they want data on what music the vast majority of people are listening to. Not you personally, because they're not going to, send you more of that. Yep. They want to know anonymously what's being downloaded, what's being streamed, what's being listened to, what's being watched. And they'll use that data to bring you general recommendations. And that's part of Apple's problem right now, is because they can't provide the personalized information that you may be looking for, and Google can. But Google sells your shit, and, Facebook, I don't know what they do with it. Facebook's just the devil at this point. I mean, they could be doing anything with your stuff.
So these calls for federal laws, I don't think are actually going to go anywhere. I think what this is, that Apple is just kind of priming the pump to let people know, hey, these other companies are doing bad things, we're not. And while Tim Cook can rightfully wear the halo, it also fits wonderfully in with their business plan.
Of course.
What they need to do, though, is to let more people know this. I think one of the issues Apple has is so few people know this is their stance, that they get painted with the same brush as Facebook and Google and Amazon and all the other companies that are doing this. I don't think Apple does enough to let the average user, we know about it because we're nerds, we follow this stuff, but Apple doesn't do enough to let the average user know that they are, in their way, taking better care of our data and our information than anyone else is.
Yeah, I agree. Wholeheartedly, I agree.
Next Tuesday in New York City, in Brooklyn to be exact, Apple is doing the October event that I said wouldn't happen. I'll be the first one to admit. I said this wasn't going to happen. It's going to happen. Interesting location. Do you read anything into the fact of doing this not in the Steve Jobs Theater, but over there on the East Coast in Brooklyn?
At this point, I'm surprised they don't do everything at the Steve Jobs Theater.
Yeah, so, exactly. That's right.
There's that.
Are you going to New York?
I was invited to New York. I will tell you now that I am not going to New York.
Why not?
It is it is my grandmother's 90th birthday.
Oh, that's cool.
And I am going to my grandmother's 90th birthday party instead of going to New York.
That is fantastic. Good for Grandma. Good for her.
Yeah.
Back home in Nova Scotia?
She is a place. She lives in Nova Scotia, but she has a place in Tampa in the winter, as a lot of Canadians do. And I will be going there to celebrate her birthday with her.
That is fantastic.
Yeah. So, I know people are going to wonder why I'm not there, and I will post a picture of me and Grammy. And she will be very happy, I hope. I
think that's absolutely fantastic. Tampa is an awful town, but you'll have fun with Grandma.
Yeah, I will.
So, which one of the invites did you get? Which logo did you get?
So I got a flower.
Okay. Did it surprise you when you went on the interwebs and saw other logos?
Yeah, it did.
It blew me. When I first saw it, I saw yours first. And then I saw Renee Ritchie at Imore. I thought, how did Renee screw this up? Because Jim's, Jim posts. And then I started seeing the tweets coming through, and it was like, what the hell? Why do you think Apple did this? What does this mean, Jim? Why has Apple changed the logo?
Yeah, good question. I don't know.
I think it's fascinating because, all the rules of branding, of marketing say don't mess with your logo. You don't change the logo. Companies change. I remember when the Apple 6-color logo, during Steve Jobs' time, Apple changed it to the very flat, non-6-color, I think it was just gray logo. We lost our minds because we grew up with the 6-color logo. We got used to it.
They didn't change the logo. They changed the invite.
No. But what I'm saying is, that's not something you do. You don't change your company's logo. And in this regard, they did, and it's a very interesting change. And the fact that they put out over almost 500 of these things.
Yep.
I'd love for Apple to explain. I assume the reason why they've done this is this is all things that you can do on the new Mac Pro. Sorry, on the new iPad Pro with the new Apple Pencil. I think maybe there's a new drawing app or something like that, because these are obviously all drawings. And I got to assume.
Good luck with that.
What do you mean? Why?
Good luck getting an explanation.
Oh God, no. Unless Tim Cook stands up on stage and explains it, we're never actually going to find out. There's no chance of that.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
So, are you with the vast majority of the interweb in assuming this is going to be new iMacs? Sorry, new iPads and Apple Pencil?
Both of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's
certainly
it's logical.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at both of those things, yes. I mean, what else can you say? Yes, it's not going to be a new iPod.
It's definitely not going to be a new iPod.
So, there, I made my statement.
I think we might see new laptops. I think we might see at least the demonstration. I would hope that we at least see a demonstration of the new Mac Pro they've been promising for quite some time.
That would be nice.
Yeah,
that would be very nice.
Even if they don't announce it, it's one of those things that we'd like to see. I don't know if we're going to see. People are hoping for a new Mac Mini. I think that's a dead product. I can't see Apple doing anything more with it.
I know. I said that in my last podcast with Renee, that I just don't get the Mac Mini and why people wanted it's a media server for most. I know some people have written me and said, no, it's more than that to me. And I understand why some people want it. I just don't think it's a big enough product for Apple to do.
I think Apple is no longer that niche company, and the Mac Mini is a very, very niche product. The Mac Pro is also a niche product, but they make so much more money off the Mac Pro. You can see why they would want to develop that. I can't see a Mac Mini. I think it's unofficially dead, and hopefully will be made officially dead next Tuesday.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot, but I mean, think about this over the last 3 or 4 Apple events, besides the specific iPhone ones, and people have always talked about a new Mac Mini.
Yes. Every single time. Every time.
Yeah. So, is this one any different to me? No, not really. I mean, will they have a new Mac Mini? I don't really care. I honestly don't.
I think there's a hardcore group of people out there who do want it, but I don't see it as a mass market or even a market as big as the Mac Pro. I can't see Apple wanting to put any more development into it. If they've ignored it for this long, they have no problem with ignoring it for the rest of its life. I think it's dead.
I agree.
We'll let you go on this. Today was the 17th anniversary of the introduction of the iPod. The original iPod was introduced in Cupertino 17 years ago today. Walt Mossberg, formerly the Recode in the Wall Street Journal, had a really interesting tweet. He said, "This week in 2001, the post-PC era began. Its full effect wouldn't be felt for years, but in my opinion, this was the start of the move in which the PC, or Mac, ceased being the essential digital device used all day, every day. Today, it's the smartphone."
So it's a fascinating look at what happened back then, and we certainly didn't see that coming back then.
No, not at all.
But he's probably right. I mean, certainly the iPod wasn't the death of the PC, but the iPod was the beginning of what we now know as the iPhone and the iPad and iOS, which is the beginning of something different than the PC.
Yeah, exactly. It was a device that was familiar enough. There were all kinds of CD players out there. There were all kinds of MP3 players out there. So it was familiar enough that people could easily grasp the idea, but also different and interesting and fun enough. It harkened back to the days of the Walkman that everybody wanted one. Everyone could use one. And you were suddenly taking this device with you, this little computer, with you in different places. And I think Walt, I never thought of it that way before, but I think Walt is not wrong. And that it did, after many years, get us to where we are today, which for a lot of people is this smartphone, this iPhone, can be their only computer. There are significant numbers of people in the world who don't have a desktop or a laptop. They only have a phone.
Okay, so how about this? The iPod Mini announcement was today.
Sorry, what?
The iPod Mini announcement was 6 years ago today.
Oh, okay, yes. I'm sorry.
So, was that the beginning of the end? iPad Mini. The
iPad Mini. Yeah. Well, there are rumors that Apple's going to have the rumors Apple's going to have another iPad Mini at this event next Tuesday. I don't know if that's true, but I think it would be for a price point kind of.
Thing. I would welcome that. Yeah. I would more than the Mac Mini. I would welcome an iPad Mini.
Yes, agreed. Because there are so many more people that can do so much more with an iPad Mini, whether it be schools or whether it be people who just don't need a big screen. I'd love to get one for my son. He doesn't need a full-size iPad, but he does want to play games on it and read on it, Kindle books and things like that. So an iPad Mini would be great for that market, whereas those folks aren't going to use a Mac Mini.
Yep, I agree.
Folks, that's it for tonight's show. Sorry, with Jim Dalrymple. Don't forget the Dalrymple Report will be posted up sometime in the next few hours, I hope. And we'll hear more from Jim on next week's show after Apple's announcement. Say happy birthday to your grandma from all of us at Your Mac Life, Jim.
I will.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks.
Talk to you later. See ya.
Bye.
Sorry about the issues we had there in the middle of this Wirecast, the app I use to do this stuff crashed on me like twice, right in the middle of the show. I think that the audio is going to be fine. I'm just checking. Hang on a second. I'm just I think I know. Okay, so hopefully that I'll be able to recover it too for you folks in the archive. When we come back, in our starting point photography segment, we're going to talk about street photography and street photography in Lisbon. We've got some questions from Dave. We're going to answer those and so much more coming up. We're also going to give away a copy of Clean My Mac 10 from the nice folks at MacPaw. All that and much more coming up. This is Your Mac Life.
Hello, my name is Melissa King. I'm Your Mac Life's official spokes Australian. As Shawn begins his 25th year of broadcasting on the internet, he has asked me to say a few words to you all. Send money. What? Why not? More? Okay. When you listen to Your Mac Life, you'll notice there are no ads, no commercial breaks, no 5-minute ad reads for products you've already bought or have no interest in buying. That's because Your Mac Life is entirely listener-supported, and not even listener-supported via a paywall or a subscription service. It's simple. If you like Your Mac Life, you can pay for it. If you don't want to pay for it, you don't have to. You can still listen. But we'd really like it if you did. On the Your Mac Life homepage at yourmaclifeshow.com, on the top left, there is a subscribe to YML box. You can send any amount you'd like each month automatically from your credit card or PayPal account. It's set for $2, $5, $10 or $15, but you can set it for any amount by clicking the donate button. The best part is you'll barely notice it. It's $2, but it makes a huge difference to us here at Your Mac Life. It means we can pay for website hosting, internet access, new computers and software to run the show on, and so much more. So, if you like Your Mac Life, please subscribe. $2 will make a tiny dent in your wallet, but when enough people subscribe, it makes a huge difference to Your Mac Life. I'm Melissa King. Thank you.
Welcome back, folks. Could you? I hope you guys couldn't hear me during the segment when I was here. Oh, we didn't hear you. Whew. Had me worried there for a second. Sorry, I got distracted by folks chatting and I didn't set Melissa's video up. No, don't go. All right, there she is. I'm going to add a new video capture. Hang on a second. Okay, where's Melissa? The hell is Melissa? Video capture, cancel, plus. Oh, for God's sake. There you are. Okay, it's beeping like it's supposed to. It's not showing up. Okay. Fine, damn it. In our starting point photography segment on tonight's show, Melissa, you had some questions.
Well, part of my thought...
3 off there, didn't I?
Part of my thought process was... now, last week you spoke about Lisbon and some of the wonderful sights in Lisbon and that sort of thing. So I thought I said to you after, we should follow along with what you're wanting to teach while you're in Lisbon as well. Yes. And one of those things is street photography.
Okay. What do you think street photography is? How do you think it would be defined?
Well, that was going to be my question to you, but because I'm more intimidated by street photography.
Yes, many people are.
And I think, I could quite easily take the camera and go and do, shots in the forest or shots on the beach or shots of friends is one, or shots of flowers, etc., your children, all that. But when you say, let's go do street photography, you go, huh? So I suppose, first of all, I'd like to know how I would mentality-wise prepare for that. And then equipment-wise was going to be another one of my questions.
Street photography is generally described, and I'm sorry for the video being all messed up. I have no idea why the hell this thing is doing this to me. Street photography is generally described as most of the kind of photography that you would do in an urban setting.
Of course.
If it's just historic buildings or mountains or waving fields of wheat, that's landscape photography.
Yes.
Street photography is where people live.
I think of people when I think of street photography.
Although it's not strictly people, but it is primarily people. And it's primarily black and white as well, too. Although it doesn't have to be. Most often, for whatever reason, shooting people just look better oftentimes in black and white, especially in urban environments. There's something, it's the grittiness of the urban environment that we see in street photography. So anytime you're taking pictures in a city, think of that as street photography, even if there's no people in there. If you're taking pictures of pigeons, if you're taking pictures of cars, of buildings, that's all considered to be street photography. So the way to do that, first of all, let's talk about equipment. You can take any camera and do street photography. You may have seen me ranting and raving this morning. Some idiots said, can a pro photographer tell the difference between a $400 camera and a $4,000 camera? No, for the most part, for average everyday pictures. It can't tell the difference. So it doesn't matter what camera you use for street photography. You can use any camera that you have. Street photography is not about the gear. It's about what you capture, the look you capture, the ambiance, the people, the shadows, the leading lines of a stairwell, of an escalator, the cars going by, the blur of street traffic. So don't think of that you need a particular kind of camera in order to do street photography. One thing that generally you want to do, though, with street photography is have a wide angle lens. Not too wide. Not looking at like a 9mm lens that makes everything look really weird. But generally you want it a bit wider because you want to capture things that you may have to crop into later. So someone's walking down the street. If I've got a wide angle lens, I can take a picture of them and the 4 people who are standing next to them. I have a telephoto lens. I can zoom in on just them, but I like shooting wide for street photography because you never know. Maybe that one person you're looking at isn't the subject of your photo. You look at it later and you realize the person to the left of them had a better face, or the person to the right. So generally you think of a wider angle lens to shoot street photography. Now, that means that's good because most cameras, if your kit camera, it has an 1855 lens, boom, you're done. You've got a wide angle-ish lens. Your iPhone has got a fairly wide angle lens. So don't worry too much about the kind of camera you're using, whether it's a DSLR or a mirrorless or an iPhone or whatever my point and shoot, doesn't matter. Street photography is often described as more of an attitude, in the sense that you have to want to go out and capture a particular aspect of the world around you that's, if you're shooting people, in constant flux. People are moving all the time. People aren't standing still. They're moving back and forth. You can do street photography on the go. You can be walking and talking to someone else and taking pictures, or you can stop. My preferred technique is stopping. I saw this great video of a guy in Holland. It was a famous street photographer. And the way he shoots is he has this little mirrorless camera like the Olympus M1 with a little tiny wide angle lens on it. And he walks around, the camera's already set. It's already pre-focused, it's already got the right aperture, it's already got the right ISO, everything is set. And he walks around and just goes, click. Just points the camera in people's faces and walks away. And people are always, I saw a video and they showed the video like basically over his shoulder. And the video captured the people in that moment after the camera stood up in their face, and then he just literally walked away, and they're like, what the hell was that? Who was that? Generally, street photography isn't done with a telephoto lens. You don't get a 200 millimeter lens and stand across the street. You lose the intimacy. You lose, those photos tend to be flat, not as pleasing as if you had a lens that wasn't a zoom lens. There's the old joke that the narrower your lens is, the more balls you have. Mm-hmm. So if you're shooting with a 35 millimeter camera, you've got to get up fairly close to somebody. They know you're shooting them. And I think that's fair. I think if you're taking pictures of someone, even if you don't ask them to take the picture, you shouldn't be hiding to taking pictures. Yeah, you can go hide in the African Serengeti when there's lions around, but if you're in the street, be there. You have to have the confidence to be there and take the pictures. And that's why street photography, for a lot of people, is a lot easier if you're with a group. Whether that's a group of friends, whether it's you and your significant other, whether that's with a bunch of people in Lisbon. Dun, dun, dun. Because the group will give you confidence. The group will help you feel safe, because you watch out for each other, especially if you happen to be in a sketchy area. It also gives you the confidence to, if someone doesn't like the photos you're taking, if they decide they want to make a scene about it, you've hopefully got a group of people who can back you up. That doesn't happen very often. It does happen, but it doesn't happen very often, especially for tourists. If you're in a touristy area, the vast majority of people who work there, who walk through there, who live there, know they're liable to get their picture taken. So you don't worry too much about that. If you're in a third world country in the backwoods of Afghanistan, yeah, then you worry about it. But for the most part, if you're in the developed world, you don't have to worry too much about it. You didn't take pictures when you were in India, did you?
Yes.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel about that? Here is this very pretty white woman, red hair, green eyes, in a foreign country. You don't speak the language. How did you take photos? Did you take photos of people?
Yes, but I didn't take very many. It wasn't.
How did you get the courage to do that?
Well, one of them was, say, for example, when you're down on the Ganges, there's so many people, and I was out on a boat. I was out on a cutout canoe type thing, so I could take pictures of people very safely from a distance while I watched the dead cow flow by.
So you weren't on the street taking photos of people in a market or that kind of stuff?
A little bit, not very much.
So street photography starts off with you having the confidence to push the shutter.
Well, yes, and that, to me, you have to go out with a very different attitude if you're going to go. It's like, you talk about go and be a photographer for an hour a week or 2 hours a week. And I think if you're going to do it in the street, you've got to think about it beforehand and think, okay, I'm going to go to street photography. Yeah. And it's you got to be a little bit braver, and you have to approach your photography in a very different way, I think. You
definitely have to look at what you're going to shoot in a different way, especially, again, you're shooting people that are moving. Generally, people in the city aren't just standing still; they're going about their business. Or people in a
they're outdoor cafes and things like that.
Market or things like that. People are moving around.
Yes.
So you have to be fairly confident in your settings. The settings for street photography are fairly easy. You set your aperture to f8. That's a fairly mid-range. F8, F11 are called the fire and forget apertures. That's a good one to shoot, because you'll get the whole person's face in focus and a little bit of the background out of focus. Not a lot of it, but some of it out of focus. Generally, you make sure your shutter speed's over at least 125 frames per second. It's not it. 120. Sorry, 125th. 1/125th of a second. 125 on your shutter speed. I generally keep mine to 200 or even higher, 300 or 400. So you want to keep your shutter speed fairly high to catch, to stop the motion of the people who are walking towards you. Unless, of course, you're shooting for blur. I will always try to shoot at least one street photography shot. And I don't know why I do this. I just like doing it. I like the idea of shooting over someone's shoulder, someone who's got an interesting profile, and have the cars on the street behind them go by in a blur. And the way you do that is you stand still. You set your shutter speed to, say, 1/100th of a second. And if that person's staying still waiting across the street, when the car goes by, the car will be blurry, but they'll be in focus. We've all seen this shot. We know what this shot looks like. I just like practicing that particular shot. So I try to keep my shutter speed to more than 1/200th of a second. My ISO this is where you might have to start messing around with ISO. If it's a cloudy day or a rainy day, 1/125th of a second and a shutter speed, 1/25th of a second and a shutter speed of aperture of f8 may not be enough. You might find your shots are too dark. In that regard, then you can up your ISO. Generally, you can probably have your ISO 100 or 200. Nowadays, if you bought a digital camera in the last 3 to 5 years, you can bump it up to ISO 400 or 800 very easily. And what that does is it makes your sensor more light sensitive. So without decreasing your aperture, making your aperture wider, or without lowering your shutter speed, making your shutter stay open longer, you can get more light sensitivity. So try those settings and practice this stuff. If you're going on a trip, if you're coming with us to Lisbon, practice this stuff before you get to Lisbon. You can just practice it around your house. You can practice it out on your front lawn. You have a dog? Practice the dog going by, or the kids, or walk around your own neighborhood taking pictures like this. Dave D asked, Dave, what was the question you asked about he was thinking about not bringing his DSLR with him to Lisbon. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. You can take great photos no matter what camera you have, and we'll teach you in Lisbon how to do that. The only issue is if you want to take specific kinds of shots. Low light shots, if you want to take shots in a pub. Now, he said he has the Max, so maybe the Max can do that for you, where you can get those low light shots. If you want to take action shots, probably the iPhone isn't going to be the greatest for that. Your DSLR would give you greater options when it comes to shutter speed. What you can do, Dave, is download and buy the Halide app, Halide, or any number of apps that allow you manual control over the iPhone. Don't just use the iPhone's built-in camera app. Get a specific camera app that can help you change your shutter speed, change your ISO on the iPhone. But again, that's only if you want to shoot outside the normal parameters of street photography, food photography, portrait photography, the usual tourist type stuff. But he says it's a matter of weight and bulk. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. It is a matter of weight and bulk. If you want to be comfortable, maybe you don't want to walk around with a big, heavy DSLR and 2 or 3 lenses in a bag. Maybe you do want to just take shots with your iPhone and enjoy the surroundings as opposed to being focused on the camera. Don't worry about that. The stuff we teach in the classes that we'll do will be suitable to any camera. You don't have to have a DSLR. You don't have to have a mirrorless camera. Your iPhone, you'll learn how to shoot with your iPhone just as easily as you'll learn how to shoot with your DSLR in the classes that we teach. So don't worry about that kind of stuff too much. What it is if you want to shoot specific kinds of shots, and if you do, let me know and I'll tell you whether or not it's a good idea. For me, I'm going to bring my Nikon D600 because I love my D600, but I know I'm going to want to set up for some night shots. I'm going to want to set up for some sunrise and sunset shots, and I'm more comfortable knowing I'll get the shot with my DSLR than I am knowing I'll get it with my iPhone. And that's just a personal preference for me. MacMan says, I guess it's for me, I have no idea when I'll get back to Europe, so I want to have my D7100 available. That makes perfect sense. So we went through gear. We went through... There's a couple of tips and tricks. Where's my camera? Oh. There's a couple of tips and tricks you can do when you're shooting on the street. One of the things, as I said, travel in groups, shoot with one or two other friends so you can watch each other's backs. What I tend to do is I find an interesting backdrop, whether that be a store window or graffiti, a painted wall, an interesting door, whatever it might be, and I'll stop. I don't do street photography, for me personally, walking around a city. I will stop someplace and just look around and see what I see. And then I'll take shots from that spot. I'll let people walk into my frame or walk out of the frame. And for that, what I do is I then find a spot somewhere, a telephone pole, a mailbox, and focus on that spot. Because that way I don't got to worry about autofocus. I don't got to worry about nailing the autofocus on the shot when someone walks into my frame. If I've already pre-focused on that spot, all I got to do is push the shutter button. I know the person's going to be in focus. The other thing you can do is when you're shooting, say someone's walking towards you and they've got a great face. We were shooting last summer on Granville Street here in Vancouver, and it was the same day that the local racetrack had their fancy dress up day. And so there's all these people with the fascinators, the cool funky hats. And there's these two really pretty young women walking towards us on the street, and they had these great hats on. And so if you want to take a picture of those people, what I made sure my camera was already set up for this. So I was already at f8. I was already at ISO 200, probably 400 on that day. I was already at the shutter speed of 200. So I knew I could just go, boom, and take a picture and nail it. Now, for me, I don't worry so much if somebody gets upset that I'm taking a picture of them. And that's just simple arrogance on my part. I'm a big guy. I'm not worried about somebody saying, what are you doing? Take my picture. Vito and I love this story. Vito and I were sitting at a cafe in Vancouver, and this young man walked by us, and this guy was gorgeous. It was a very, very handsome young man. And I grabbed my camera, and because it was already set up for the shot, went bang and took a couple of shots of the guy. And he stopped. We were sitting at the cafe tables. The guy stopped and went, what did you just do? I took a picture of you. Why? Because you're very good looking. Oh, and walked away. I can do that. I have the confidence to do that. If you don't put yourself into a situation where that can happen to you, where somebody can challenge you, where somebody can, at the very least, make you uncomfortable about taking pictures. So travel with a group. The other thing you can do is, I love this technique. You don't look through the viewfinder. If you've got everything pre-focused, pre-done, already, you can look past that person. So the person is walking towards you. And in the meantime, I can take a picture. I'm not looking at them, so they don't think I'm taking a picture of them, but I'm taking a picture of them as they're walking towards me. The other thing you can do is look through the viewfinder, take the picture, but don't move your eye away from the picture. Because what happens is, as soon as you move your head away from your camera, the person knows you took a picture. So if you take the picture but leave your eye there, they think you're waiting for them to get out of the way before you take the picture. There's all kinds of little tips and tricks and techniques that you can use. Our friend Tony Rosario, Tony has got this great technique where he says he has got a mirrorless camera around his neck with a wide-angle lens on it. And Tony goes out dressed up like a tourist. He's got a I Love New York t-shirt on and a stupid hat and wearing Bermuda shorts. He looks like a tourist in New York City. And because he looks like a tourist, everyone ignores him. The people of New York just completely ignore him. But he walks around with this camera strap around his neck and the camera there. And when he sees something of interest, he starts fiddling with the camera strap. But at the same time, he's got his finger on the trigger of the camera. So what he's doing is as he's being Joe Tourist and trying to get his camera strap ready, he's taking 15 pictures of somebody as they're walking towards him. But they never look at him because he's just a tourist. He completely blends into the background, and they have no idea that he's taking pictures of them. The other technique you can do, and this is always a discussion in street photography, do you or don't you? Ask permission. It's not that hard, especially in tourist areas. People are expecting pictures. A shopkeeper or just a person in the street. If you speak the language, great. If you don't speak the language, learn a couple of phrases. Hello, obrigado. Do you know that obrigado is for men? Obrigada is for women.
Oh, it's like a Beatles song. Obladi, oblada. Obrigada. Say it again.
Obrigado.
Obrigado.
No. That's for men.
Obrigada.
Obrigada for women. Because usually the word itself is male or female, and I'll have the O or the A on the end of it. In Italian, there's Valentina and Valentino, male and or female and male.
Same in Spanish too.
But in Portuguese, it's the gender of the person speaking that changes the word. I think it's really interesting. So for me, obrigado, which is thank you, is obrigado is the male speaking, and obrigada is the female speaking.
Obrigada.
So you learn a couple of phrases. What you can do is just ask the person. Even if you don't speak the language, you can point to your camera and point to them and smile. Always be friendly. Always be smiling. But be ready to take the picture. Don't make the person that you've asked to take the picture wait 5 minutes where you go, hang on a second, aperture light, do a light reading. No, have it ready ahead of time. So all you have to do is go click and say thank you very much and walk away. If the person says no, don't. Under no circumstances should you ever take a picture of someone who's expressly told you no. Whether it's through a finger wag or whether it's a head shake or they've actually said no, don't then walk down the street and try to take a sneaky picture of them. That's disrespectful. Respect their right to say no. If they don't want their picture taken, they'll tell you and you just go on. One of the other things you can always do too is in touristy areas, I found this out first of all in San Francisco. In touristy areas, some people want to get paid for the picture. I think it's the last handmade fortune cookie shop is in a little dark back alley in San Francisco. It's like a little sweatshop where these little women hand make fortune cookies. They've got a whole big box of fortunes, and they've got the dough, and they put the box in, and then they fold it, and weird. It's kind of cool. So this woman had a sign in English, it was all Chinese, in English saying photos, $1. I was like, okay, that's fair. So one thing I try to do is have a bunch of dollar bills or dollar coins if you're in Europe or Canada or other places where you can just give someone $1 for taking a picture. One thing I will encourage you not to do, don't take pictures of the homeless. Give them the $1, but don't take pictures of the homeless. Unless you're a professional, there's really no way to do that with dignity. There's no real good way to document that unless you're a pro. You're just going to end up sounding and looking exploitative if you do that. So I would encourage you not to do it. Now, there are people here in Vancouver on Granville Street who are obviously homeless, but they're doing something. There's one guy who's a really good sculptor, and he's taking just pieces of wood and sculpting not miniature totem poles, but the faces you see on totem poles, he's carving those into wood. I took a few pictures of him and gave him $5 because he was doing something. But if it's just a homeless person, for whatever reason, try not to take pictures of them. Give them their dignity and don't take those shots. One of the great things that's going to happen in Lisbon, and I love doing this, is we're going to walk around in Lisbon, and you are going to be free to do this. Hey, Shawn, that guy over there is really handsome. I want to take his picture. Go ask him. And I will quite happily walk up to that person going, excuse me, we're a bunch of photographers. We think you've got a great face. Would you mind if we took your picture? And most of the time, 90% of the time I've done that, they've all gone, sure. Yeah, because all of a sudden, they're a model. I say you got a great face. Here, I always have a business card. Here's my business card. I'll send you the photos if you'd like. And then again, if you're ready, we can take a bunch of photos real quick with the person. And while you're taking photos of them, this is what we did on Granville Street with the two ladies with the hats. I'm engaging them in conversation. Why are you wearing the hats? How much did it take to put them together? Did you buy them? Did you build them yourself? That kind of stuff. So while I'm talking to them, you guys are taking pictures of them so you can walk around them and you can get different angles and that kind of stuff. So I'll keep their attention for 3 or 4 minutes as you take pictures of people. So that's going to allow you to be able to shoot much more comfortably this kind of street photography. And we're going to do that a lot in Lisbon. There's a wonderful neighborhood. Melissa and I have seen a bunch of videos of this district called the Alfama district. And it's the one with the stairs. And it's very hilly and narrow and windy. And I think it's going to be a great district to go to take photos, even during the middle of the day, because of the narrowness of these corridors. You're not going to worry about too much bright sunshine. There's going to be lots of shadow there. And there's going to be lots of people. This is the working class neighborhood of Lisbon called the Alfama district. And it's near our hotel, within walking distance of the hotel. So we're definitely going to spend at least one day walking through the Alfama, getting some great shots of stairs, people coming downstairs and buildings and other things like that. Did we cover everything you wanted to cover?
Well, it's past time, so.
Was there something else?
No, it's
We
okay.
can go long. If my wife wants to ask questions,
No.
I will happily answer her questions.
No, I'm fine.
Let's see what notes that I make. This is a perfect example of, see if this is what I'm thinking it is. So this is a lady who's written an article called 6 Things to Do in the Alfama, Lisbon's oldest district. And it's a good article, but I want you to notice this. Now, come on. Look at the photos that she posted. So she is obviously a part-time traveler, brunch hunter, and lover of the quirky. So I'm going to post this so you guys can see this. So, but look at her photos. She is in a place that gets 200 days of sunshine a year. How did you post that photo, lady? How did you post this dark, dreary photo of Lisbon? That is Tram 28. We'll definitely be riding that. It goes on. Look at this. This is a terrible photo of Lisbon. This is what we were talking about, I think, on last week's show. That these photos should make you want to go to the place, not, I'm never visiting there. Mm-hmm. That's just a terrible photo. And my first thought was, oh, the poor thing. Maybe she was just there for one day.
And it was cloudy.
And it was a cloudy day. But still, even on a cloudy day, that's a terrible photo. Another one. This is I think this is the National Cathedral in Lisbon. And in situations like this, just don't take the photo. You and I have talked about this before. If the photo is going to be bad, you can see it's going to be bad, just don't take it. And certainly don't post it. But this is the South George Castle up here. Our hotel is down to the left of this. But you look at the photos, and I don't know that she's trying to be moody or, dark intentionally. You know what I mean? This was not the thing she was going for. What she's done is just taken bad photos of things. Bad, fairly boring photos of Lisbon. And we know from experience, it's a beautiful city. So she was at some place when it was sunny at some point. And how you could take this photo and not get the streetcars in it is beyond me. It was a shot inside of one of the cathedrals. Again, the Tram 28. But look at this. So she was there on a sunny day. At least one of the days that she was there was sunny enough to take this photo. So don't take bad photos. If the sky that you're shooting is ugly, don't shoot the sky. If the sky that you're shooting is unattractive, all you got to do is just tilt your camera down. Or find something else to take a picture of. Get closer to the building, or get closer to the artwork. Get closer to the detail of the cornice of the building. But as Monty says, take the shot just for the memory, but don't post it publicly. What we're going to teach you in Lisbon is, and this is a story that we're going to talk about on next week's show, is the idea of how to see this stuff before you take the picture. Before you push the shutter button, we're going to spend a lot of time seeing the photograph before you even take it. I want you to visualize the photo. We're going to talk a lot about visualization. We're going to talk a lot about what do you see and how do you capture what you see on film, on your camera sensor. These are shots that she's taken that what she sees is different from what her camera sees. She sees the building, but doesn't really pay attention to everything else. She's not a photographer. She's a travel writer, and her travel writing is fine. Her photography is lacking. This is not a bad shot. I don't mind this picture. You can see, though, it was obviously a very sunny day, and she got a decent amount of light on these shots. But then there's other shots that she's taken that just don't do anything for you. Pictures that just simply aren't interesting. You know what I mean? And if you disagree with me, please say so. This shot is so blown out. All the shadows that she's captured, all the dark is way too dark. And that could be a matter of her just not setting her camera up properly, or it's so dark that that's the way the photo's coming out. And if that's the case, don't take the picture. One of the advantages you'll have as you practice photography more is, and this is one of the revelations that I had as a photographer, is I take fewer photos now that I know more about photography, because I can look at a scene and go, wrong light, or I'll come back tomorrow when it's sunny or cloudy, or I have to go over here to get the shot. As opposed to what we said before many times, as tourists, as beginners, our feet get nailed down. We just take this shot. The shot that she's got here, I don't know that you can improve the shot from where she's standing. It's not a particularly interesting photo. You know what I mean? Mm-mm. Not for a travel photographer. If these are friends of yours, and this is going to go on Facebook, and hey, this is Tony and me in the Alfama district walking around. Okay, fine. Mm-hmm. But as a travel writer, this is not a shot that is of any interest to me at all. Again, blue sky. So she was there for blue sky at some point. I like this one because it's kind of moody, but her horizon dead center. I know, Ong. I know. Don't rag on me. And again, just a flat, boring sky here. And in this case, if your sky is flat and boring, don't take the picture. Shoot this thing down here. You can see this might be a cathedral. You know what? That's that convent with the collapsed roof. Oops, shoot. Yes, that's what that is. Go shoot that. This is probably a shot from either Miradoros, which is a sightseeing spot, or from the balcony of her hotel, or whatever it is. But you look at this shot. I look at this shot. I walk out on her balcony. I see this and go, oh, crap. It's a really shitty sky. Okay, I'll take a different kind of photo. Shoot for the light that you have, not for the light you want. If this had been a beautiful blue sky with big puffy clouds floating along, maybe this would have been a nicer shot. But with this flat, gray... Well,
she got the crane up in the right corner there.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, too, is crop this out. Crop that crane out. So, anyway, that's what one of the things that we're going to be talking about as we move forward to Lisbon. Don't forget, if you want more information about the Lisbon trip, please send me an email to Shawn at yourmaclifeshow.com and answer any questions you guys like. Also, go to startingpointphotography.com to get more details about the hotel, the wonderful Tesoro da Baixa. Y'all have no idea how proud I am of saying that. Because I don't speak any other languages. So being able to say Tester de Baixa is very cool. And as we go, too, we're also going to be talking about translation apps. I found a couple of translation apps. One of them is really cool. You've seen it. You say what it is that you want, and it comes up through voice recognition, the text, and then you push the translate button, and on the other side of your phone, so your phone is split in two, it comes up in their language, and the audio is of the phone speaking your statement. So it wouldn't be great, but for little things like, I'm lost, where's my hotel kind of thing, or how much would a taxi cost, or what is this meal kind of stuff, it might work out. I'm going to give away a copy of Clean My Mac 10 from the nice folks at MacPaw. As always, all you got to do is go to our website at yourmaclifeshow.com. Click on the link at the top of the page that says Friends of YML. It sends me an email. I drop your name into our virtual hat where you can win prizes from Your Mac Life. If you're a subscriber to Your Mac Life, you got it made. You don't even got to do that. You subscribe for the $2, $5, $10, $15 a month. I put the entry form in for you. You don't do anything else. So we're gonna look away, and my lovely talented assistant will say stop at some point.
Stop.
And it's gonna go out to Donald Beck. DonBeck.org. Hey Don, congratulations. You won a copy of Clean My Mac 10 from the nice folks at MacPaw. Thank you very much for being a listener, Don. Make sure I make this. Clean My Mac. Folks, that's it from tonight's show. As always, thank you guys very much for joining us.
I think Dave is asking
you
a question.
I'm sorry. What's Dave asking?
He's asking you.
Oh, Monty's announcement. Thank you for the reminder.
And he said, did I miss that?
It is not a announcement. Hang on. Let me just find this thing. This was from Don Beck. This is kind of ironic. Don says, I've heard and read lots about the new features in iOS 12, but only heard about my favorite in one place, and don't know if you've run across it yet. When typing anything and wanting to move the insertion point, you generally have to touch the text, wait for the magnifying glass, and then move it to where you want the new insertion point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the insertion point is generally under your finger, so you can't see it very well. In iOS 12, you can touch and hold the space bar. Now, I tested this out on my iPhone 10. It works. Touch and hold the space bar. This makes the keys on the keyboard disappear, and it becomes a trackpad. You then slide your finger to move the insertion point bar anywhere you want, release your finger, continue typing. That's freaking the coolest thing! Okay, it's a bit nerdy, but how many times have you fought to change, you misspelled something? You type something away, and you look up and go, oh, crap, I misspelled that word. And you got to try to get it, and you're doing that thing. Hold the space bar down, and then it turns into a touchpad. I think that's brilliant. Thank you very much to Don Beck, winner of our Clean My Mac.
I'm glad he won.
I'm glad he won, and thanks very much, Don, for sending in that tip. He's got some other stuff, too, and I'll get to that stuff on next week's show. Folks, as always, I want to say thanks to Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. What are you laughing at?
Monty's just so cute. He's been using it all week.
Yes, he has.
It's just so nice.
Well, I swore him to secrecy, and then yesterday in his review, John Gruber mentioned in his review, and I'm like, you bastard! But no one reads Gruber, so I'm not that worried about it. Thanks very much to Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. We're going to have a great show next week. We're going to be talking about all the things that Apple announced next Tuesday. So make sure you tune in for that. Thanks to you guys for being part of the show, whether you're listening in via the archive or tuned in live and are one of the cool kids in the IRC chat room. Until next week, I've been Shawn King.
I'm Melissa King.
And you've been listening to Your Mac Life. See ya!
Bye.